Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. So excuse the weird, obviously different intro. Today we're actually going to be diving into my eyeshadow palette collection. So that setup, obviously it's going to be a little bit different because I'm actually going to be pointing down at my drawer and showing you all of my palettes. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy. I've actually attempted to film this video once before on this camera, and then the memory card took a shit and I lost all the footage, so here I am attempting to do it again. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy. Brace yourselves. There are a lot of palettes and I've either purchased these, gotten them as a gift, or received them in a boxy charm. So yeah, but I hope you guys enjoy, and yeah, without further ado, don't forget to please subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell so you know when I post, and without further ado, let's go ahead and get on into it. Okie dokie, so you are on my floor right now. I have actually done a brief tour of my makeup stash. I'll actually link that below in case you want to see kind of my format of, obviously I've edited the products since then, but you're just gonna be getting my hands. So I store my eyeshadow palettes in the very bottom here in this drawer because it is the heaviest obviously drawer in my palette just by sheer volume of things, and eyeshadow palettes are heavy. So yeah, and I'm sorry they're kind of all not very organized. They're just like thrown in here all willy-nilly. I try to keep some method to the madness, but right now I'm just going to show you and pick stuff up because I actually have been using some, so I haven't organized it since then. But then when I put it back, I'll do like a little fast forward kind of action so you can see everything being put back normally. Alright, so let's start with this guy right here. This is the ColourPop Thrill of It palette. I just spoke about this in my February favorites. Check it out if you haven't already. Basically, it's just an all glitter palette that you have right here. It's pressed glitters, not technically eye safe, but this was such a bargain. It was 20 bucks for the pans and for this Z palette thing. It's beautiful. I'm actually wearing it on my eyes right now. That is this shade right here, and yeah, I love this guy, recommend it. The other palette I spoke about in my favorites video is this guy right here. This is the Tarte Rainforest of the Sea Volume 3 palette. Looks like this. It's an all shimmer palette. It's perfect to travel with, and it just gives you the most beautiful pigmentation when you just use your fingers. One and done. Awesome, beautiful palette, and I have swatches of that in my February favorites video, so check that out. I'm not going to be swatching every single palette because I feel like that would be super intense, but for the ones that I want to talk about or the things that I actually feel like need to be showcased, I will swatch them for you. Next up here we have one of my favorite palettes ever and one of my favorite palette collections ever. This is the BH Cosmetics Glam Reflections Gilded palette. Beautiful colors, beautiful pigmentation, great packaging. Look at this mirror. It's just insane. This is such a stunning palette. Like, I'll swatch some of these for you because these are just so beautiful. Like, look at that. One swipe, just beautiful color, and they are just really easy to blend. The mattes are really creamy as well. Great stuff. And I also love, it's all the way at the bottom, my first love that made me even want to try this formula is the Glam Reflections L'Amour palette. This is like their pinky palette. So beautiful, has the most beautiful pink rosy shades. This like black though with glitter, and then this like what is this, like deep green. Oh my god, look how beautiful that is. Like, I love these so much. Whenever I want to do an all pink look, this is a palette I will reach for. It's good stuff. And I got them on sale for like 10 bucks on the BH Cosmetics website. Definitely recommend. If you can get your hands on them, definitely do so. Alright, next up, let's talk about the Soft Glam palette. This is a staple of mine as well. It made my best of 2018. This is actually the first Anastasia palette I've ever owned, and it has some of the most beautiful colors. This black is insane. And these shades are just so stunning, so richly pigmented, so beautiful. Anastasia shadows are known to be just some of the best in the industry, and these definitely do not disappoint. Like, look at that. It's just so beautiful. And obviously this is a neutral palette as the name would suggest, but you can get really everyday looks like with these transition shades. I just use like Rustic is a really beautiful transition shade. It is so stunning, and the rest of the shades are really beautiful as well. And I've also used this palette to get a really deep smoky look. I've traveled with this palette. It's just beautiful. A staple in my opinion. One of the best neutral palettes on the market. Okay, another staple of mine is the Urban Decay Born to Run palette. I've also traveled with this. This is such a good palette. It's a little bit heavy, but the packaging is so nice. and these just are such beautiful shades. I love using this shade, Big Sky, all over the lid. You can get really, really neutral looks just using like Riff and like Good As Gone and Jet, which are like my 3 go-tos for like an everyday look. But then Smog and Ignite give you like the most beautiful color payoff for like a bronzy, smoky situation. Oh, sorry, I have to constantly see if I'm like in frame. But yeah, they're just so stunning, so beautiful. Can you see? I'm so sorry. Really, really beautiful, and I absolutely recommend this palette as well. They give you some of the best colors, and honestly, you really don't need much else. Like, look at the color arrangement. You've got stunning, well done Urban Decay. This is actually the only Urban Decay palette I've owned. I have not owned any of the Naked ones, so I am really pleased because I've heard this is actually the best one they've ever come out with. So okay, this is also a really good palette that I like, and it's kind of weird because you wouldn't think that I would like it, and it just kind of seems weird, right? But this is the Butter London, I don't know what the name of this is called, but it's basically like a small, like little like palette. But when I tell you that these are some of the most pigmented shades in my collection, I am not joking. Look at this. One swipe of Diva, Temptress, and Femme Fatale. These are the 3 most pigmented shades in the entire palette, and I'm gonna swatch them for you. Like, holy crap. This freaking foil shade right here is the most beautiful to just throw all over your lid, in the shade Diva right here. Oh my god, it is so stunning. And I think this is a great summer palette because you've got like neutrals, you've got like your bronzes, and you've got like this really nice aqua blue, which this is actually the aqua blue that I was wearing on my lower lash line in my face palettes video. It's just stunning. I don't know if it's completely necessary, but it's definitely one that I really like. I got this in a BoxyCharm last year. Okay, I want to talk about a couple other BH Cosmetics palettes I love. These are some of their travel palettes, like they're part of their travel series, and they're both stunning. I've done tutorials with both of these. I will link them down below. This is the Beautiful in Barcelona palette. Stunning, just beautiful, like cool tone, like dusky shades. Like, ugh. I did like a blue, purple, smoky eye tutorial on this, and I absolutely love it. This is actually like my favorite like cool tone palette. Like if I want to do like a cool tone look, I will go for these shades. I love Stone as like an initial like transition shade. It's just so beautiful. Very pigmented, very creamy, very blendable shades. Underrated for sure. And then the Summer in Saint Tropez palette, I actually think that I'm gonna take this with me when I go to Miami in May with my best friend. This is like a palette that screams summer. I did a fun, colorful look, and this palette just lends itself to like so many fun, colorful looks. Like, I don't know if I would take this alone because it doesn't really have any neutrals. It has Sand, which is a neutral, but it can get really fun, deep looks like with the purples and the blues, but really fun light looks as well. Like, look at these duochromes, Coastline and Exotic. Look at them right here. Like, oh my god, it is, can you see like the duochrome-ish quality? It is so beautiful. I love this palette. I'm definitely thinking about taking it with me. It is just a palette that screams summer, it screams fun, it screams tropical vacation, and I love it. Okay, moving on to an OG. Sorry, I'm just pulling these out willy-nilly as I mentioned. This is the Morphe 25B palette. I actually purchased this 3 years ago when I was still living in LA. I went to the first Morphe store. It's their Burbank store. This is really old packaging, but this is a great neutral palette. Like, I did my college graduation makeup with this palette, and the mattes in here are still really nice, and the shimmers, like the payoff is still really, really beautiful for like them being Morphe, quote unquote, and for it being like a little bit older. Sorry, I'm not doing any of this in frame, I suck. But this is a really nice palette. They have repackaged it, but I believe they still have the 25B. It's great when you want to have some cool tones, but also some warm tones. Obviously, the looks in this are just neutrals, but this is also an essential neutral palette in my collection. Another essential neutral palette, because I love neutral palettes, is this guy right here. This is also an OG. This is the Tarte Tartelette in Bloom palette. I have traveled with this so many times. I have used this so many times. It is probably a cult favorite in this industry because it just has insane color payoff, and you can get such beautiful neutral looks, but also such deep smoky looks as well because you have like these array of deep shades. But probably the color that stands out to me the most is Funny Girl right here. It is the most pigmented kind of highlighting shade ever. I use this to highlight my inner corners all the time. Sorry, it's like a mess over here, but just look at this. It is so beautiful. perfect to reach for if I'm in a pinch and I don't know what I want to do, but I want to do something neutral. I will just grab this and just throw a couple shades in my crease, deepen it up with one of these, and boom, I'm good to go. It is an essential, and the formula is amazing. It's made with their Amazonian clay formula, so it lasts a super long time on my lids. Good stuff. And I also just want to mention that I know this beauty industry is constantly evolving and there's always new stuff, but don't feel like, in my opinion, you have to constantly keep up, because eyeshadow palettes, like, you know, everything was once the new thing. So it's not always about the new stuff. It's about using the stuff in your collection and really getting the most out of it. It's also, of course, trying the new stuff, but in my opinion, I keep going back to some of these older palettes because I still think they're amazing, and just because they're not new, it doesn't mean that they're not good, if that makes sense. I'm gonna save this for a little bit later. Let's go with this guy. This is the Makeup Revolution Iconic Vitality palette. This is the Reloaded palette. They have quite a few shades, and as you can tell, this is kind of like a dupe for the Anastasia Modern Renaissance palette. The Makeup Revolution line is known to be kind of like a line that dupes other makeup, and it's good. This isn't the best palette in my collection, but it was $7, so it was really cheap. But the pigmentation on these shadows is decent. I like using this like lilac shade too. Obviously, the lilac shade in this Beautiful in Barcelona palette, in my opinion, is a little bit better. This stone, they don't look identical, but this is stone, and then obviously the one in here, I think it's good. I don't know if it's the best, but for $7 it's not bad. Okay, let's move on to this guy. I actually got this for free at Ulta one day. I was walking in the store with my friend, and one of the employees was handing out literally like free shit. Like, they were carrying around a bag and they were like, oh, do you want something for free? And I was like, sure. And then she was like, okay, just like take whatever you want from the bag. And so this was thrown in there, and CoverGirl is recently cruelty free, so I was like, oh, I'm really intrigued, and I love this. I'm actually wearing this palette like kind of on my eyes today. I was blown away by this pigmentation. Like, look at this, guys. It is insane. It is insane. I was not expecting that from CoverGirl. I'm sorry, I don't mean disrespect to CoverGirl, but I just was not expecting them to have really beautiful creamy pigmented shades, especially in a palette that was given to me for free. You know what I mean? Like, even this blue is like stunning. Like, oh my god, I was not expecting that. But these jewel tones really shocked me. They're so beautiful, very pigmented, very creamy, and just everything you would want in an eyeshadow palette, honestly. So definitely pick it up. I don't know if they still have it. Maybe they were giving it away because it was discontinued, but it's honestly such a beautiful jewel tone palette that I'm inspired to do like a tutorial just using this palette with like the green and the blue and this little like glitter in the middle. I think would be such a pretty like deep royal moment. I don't know, I like it. Okay, this is the first eyeshadow palette in my collection. I bought this about 4 years ago. This is a Too Faced Sweet Peach palette, and I don't think I could ever get rid of it just because of the memories I have with it. I took it with me to Orlando, Florida. I've taken it with me so many times, and this is the palette that I remember when I first purchased. I was like, this palette can do it all. If I buy this, I don't need any other palette because it has neutrals, it has deep shades, and still to this day, it's a really beautiful palette. It is old, so the pigmentation's not as good, but look, I mean, obviously that's still really nice. Like, come on. It's just really beautiful. It smells like peach. Really good shadows. Are they the best in my collection? No, not anymore, but this shade in Luscious is the most luscious shade. Like, in addition to Funny Girl from Tarte, this is probably one of my favorite like shimmer shades. It is so beautiful. Like, look at that. And I'm lightly pressing, guys. I don't know. Some of these are really amazing, and I'll keep this forever for the memory. It just reminds me of where I came from in the makeup world and my first ever palette. It's just very sentimental to me, and I love it. Okay, the Lundy London Shadow Swatch, I think, made it to my yearly favorites. This is such a beautiful palette. It is an underrated palette for sure. It has warm shades and it has cool tone shades. I've done a full cool tone look with this palette. I think it's amazing. I've worn this out to the club. You get really good pigmentation. Is it Anastasia pigmentation? No, but for the price, it's really amazing. This is the Rust palette. I think they have another variety and maybe something else, but this is the one that I love and that I purchased, and this is an essential for me as well. The Ace Beauty Scarlet Dusk palette is newer to my collection. I got it in a BoxyCharm, but I actually did my Valentine's Day makeup tutorial, my Berry Smoky Eye, using this palette, and I will link that below. But look at all these really rich colors. Like, I love berry tone shadows. I think they're so fun. They're so unique. And this packaging is so nice to travel with. It's just really easy and compact. But the pigmentation on Ace Beauty shadows is unlike anything, well, not unlike anything else. It's definitely one of my most pigmented palettes in my entire collection. This is like on the same level as like my Violet Voss shadows, my ABH shadows. It is stunning. If you want to see it in action, I will link that above and below. The other Ace Beauty palette I have, where is it, is the Grandiose palette. And if I'm not tripping, I think this one actually is a little bit more pigmented than this. This is borderline almost too intense. Like, you have to be really careful, but this is a really nice kind of like 8-pan palette, larger shades, same kind of berry, warm kind of color scheme going on. But when I tell you that cinnamon is the most pigmented matte I have like in my collection, I am not kidding. Like, it freaking is so creamy. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. It is insane how pigmented this is, and it just keeps going on and on. They are softer shadows, so they are more prone to fallout, but look at that pigmentation. It's like undeniable. Holy crap, it is amazing. But yeah, I would say that you really have to be careful, because if you go in and you don't tap off your brush, it's a little bit too intense, but probably a better problem to have than the opposite. Okay, another pigmented palette that I have in my collection that I actually haven't played around with too much is the Dominique Cosmetics Celestial Thunder palette. I also got this in a BoxyCharm, but I have used Zero Gravity before, but I can't wait to use more of the other shades. I have used this one too, but this is such an interesting color story, and in my opinion, it's not exactly cohesive, but that's okay, because I am constantly dipping around into different palettes to pick out, you know, shades I want to use here and there. And this shade in, what is this called? Mystic Ice, definitely looks like one I will be playing around with a lot for spring and summer. I love doing like turquoisey looks. I think this is a really nice palette, and the quality is there. I have a couple of ColourPop palettes. Well, let's talk about the OG palettes that I have. The 12-pan palettes, I have the Kathleen Lights Dream Street palette. Looks like this. You already know what this palette looks like. It is well known and well loved. Kathleen Lights is my favorite beauty YouTuber on this space. I love her so much, and I'm so inspired by her, and I love this palette as well. You can get really beautiful neutral looks, and then I love doing like a teal smoky eye using these two shades because I think it's amazing. And yeah, this is a great palette that you can definitely travel with, because you have transition shades, you have crease shades, you have pops of colors, you have shimmers. It's beautiful, good stuff. And the one I actually purchased before that was even out and available is the ColourPop I Think I Love You palette, not powder. It has a bunch of neutral shades. I travel with this one a lot because you have a black, you have a gold, and then you have a bunch of fun neutral browns that are so conducive to any kind of neutral look. You can go smoky, and the ColourPop shadow formula is really, really good. It's definitely up there in terms of quality. Very pigmented. There's a little bit of fallout, but very, very blendable and very creamy. The Pure Festival palette is a palette I got last year in a BoxyCharm, and this was my first ever like pressed glitter like palette. Like, it has these two really beautiful pressed glitters down here that I think are stunning, and this is a really good palette. Honestly, it has good neutral shades as well. I don't really reach for it for a neutral look, because when I think about this palette, I think about this hot pink, I think about this purple, and I think about the glitters, obviously, because these are the ones that stick out the most. But this is a really nice palette, really creamy, really beautiful. Do you need it? I would say probably not. It's a good palette, but it's just basically like a lot of neutral, just with a couple pops of color, but the quality itself is really good, and I like it a lot. The Juvia's Place Afrique palette is one that I actually wore on Christmas last year. Oops. It is such a beautiful palette. Look how many colors you get. This yellow is so fun. I'm going to swatch the fun shades for you. These fun mattes are so nice. Juvia's Place is also a brand that gives you quality eyeshadows at a good price, and they're known for that in the industry, for giving you really pigmented, nice, creamy mattes, and this is no different. I also love this shade Kofi down here. It's probably my favorite shade in the palette. Kofi is such a beautiful, stunning gold. Oh my god, look at that. Look at that magic. Do you see that? It's just so beautiful. I'm swatching it with my pinky. So this is a really nice palette. It's not super duper essential, but I thought it was really nice to add to my collection because it has a green, it has some deep burgundies, and it has like a little bit of everything. So I really like it. Okay, and then we have, I'm going to save my bigger palettes for last. The Dose of Colors Blushing Berries palette is really, really beautiful. It's small, perfect to travel with, and I think I might want to buy the Baked Browns palette. Even though I have so many like neutral palettes, I want to try their Baked Brown palettes because this is also one of the most pigmented palettes in my collection. This formula is amazing. There is a lot of fallout when you put your brush into the pan because they are very pigmented and very creamy and very soft, but I'm not joking when I say that the payoff is almost unparalleled. Like, it's really insane. I love this for like an all matte look. I'll just toss this little like light pinky beige in my crease and then this on my outer corner, and boom, I'm done, good to go. And that black is also stunning as well. Going Coconuts palette is one of two 9-pan palettes I got from ColourPop, and this is actually my travel neutral palette now ever since I got it. You have all these fun shades, and I don't know if it's just me, but I don't think these are as pigmented as their 12-pan palettes. It could just be me, or it could just be this. It's not bad at all. I'm not saying it's bad, but it's definitely not as good in my opinion as their other palettes. But I love the color scheme on this. This is perfect to travel with. Like, if I was going to Miami, I would only need to take like these two palettes because I've got my neutrals here and I've got my pops of color here. So yeah. The other ColourPop 9-pan palette I have is the main squeeze palette. I've done a tutorial on this. I will link that below. This is their all red palette, and technically red eyeshadows are not eye safe, but this is so beautiful. You can get such nice peachy pink looks, and you can get like deep hot red smoky looks, which are perfect for the summertime. And you have these 3 middle shades right here that are perfect to just throw on your lid. Like, really beautiful duochrome kind of summery pinky punchy shades. Good stuff. I love this guy, and I love the packaging on these because they're so easy to travel with. Okay, the BH Cosmetics Summer Lovin' palette. I've also traveled with this. It's not my favorite, honestly. When I purchased it online, in my opinion, I thought it would be a little bit different, but it's not bad. The pans are super duper small. It's a good palette. They've got a lot of variety, but you know, like this color I thought would be like a matte olive green, and it's not. It's actually like a brown, which is not bad. It's definitely a nice neutral shade. It just kind of looked deceiving. I don't really reach for this palette, I gotta be honest. Ever since I first used it, I'm not as drawn to it anymore, and also because the pans themselves are so small, it's really hard to kind of get my brush in there. But quality itself is not bad. It's definitely not as good in my opinion as some of their other palettes, like their travel palette or their Glam Reflections palette, but it's not bad. It's not the best either. Now, the Storybook Cosmetics is also a really, really nice palette. It's a little bit bulky. I did a whole tutorial using this palette as well. I did like a warm holiday smoky eye for Christmas, and I'll link that below. This is really cute. It's not the absolute best thing in the world. The shadows are nice, but in my opinion, this is a palette that's a little bit extraneous. I don't really need it. I have it because I got it in a BoxyCharm, but it's not bad by any means. I like it, and also, this is a wolf, but it looks like the fox, so you know, I had to keep it because the Werther's is a fox. Okay, the Nubian by Juvia's Place. I have the mini one. I don't have the original one. And I bought this palette because I am always on the hunt for a travel neutral palette. And this is really nice. I was using it every day for a while, but I came to realize the pigmentation was kind of disappointing. I'm not going to lie. It's definitely not as good as their big Afrique palette that I have. And I was really disappointed because I was expecting it to be really nice. You have to kind of build up the color a little bit. It's not the best, but for 10 bucks, I don't think it's bad. It's great if you want like a little travel companion palette of all neutrals, but if you're just looking for like a staple, I would invest a little bit more elsewhere, I think, or maybe even just buy the regular Nubian because I've heard that's good. But the mini, I don't know if I just got a dud, but it's not, in my opinion, the best. Now this guy is an OG for me, and I will keep this forever and always because for so long this was my go-to neutral palette, and I still use it often. This is a Morphe Little palette. It was a collaboration with an influencer. This is in the shade Cocoa Mocha, and this is not even available anymore. Like, this is the old Morphe branding, but when I tell you that these are shades that I use every single one of these pans, I am not joking. This is a full look for me. Like, I could take this, honestly, like I could take this and a full freaking colorful palette and be good to go, or even just this, and I could do any look day or night. It is so beautiful. I don't know if they have it anymore, but I wanted to mention it because this truly is one of my favorite palettes in my entire collection, and I don't think I could ever get rid of it. Okay, we're winding down here. Let's talk about the other couple of small palettes I have. This is the Wet n Wild Not a Basic Peach palette. I've also done tutorials with this. This one is good. It's not everything and more. The pigmentation isn't like Anastasia or anything, but I think it's really nice. The most special color in this palette to me is this duochrome shade right here. It is a really nice shade. Like, look at that. Look at that. It is really, really beautiful, and this gives you nice summertime fun looks. It's great to travel with because of the size. The quality isn't the absolute best, but again, it's Wet n Wild, which is not technically cruelty free anymore, but the 10-pan palettes are probably some of their best eyeshadow palettes that they have in their collection or in their brand. The Huda Beauty Amethyst Obsessions is one of her smaller palettes. This is a really nice palette. I actually used it on New Year's. I did a full-on purple smoky eye. I love purple on my lids. That's one of my favorite colors to do smoky eyes with, or even any kind of eyeshadow look on my eyes with, because I have brown eyes and purple just really complements brown eyes. So if I have to do a full-on color smoky eye, purple is my go-to. I love this palette. I think it's so beautiful. Her shades are super richly pigmented, and this is just an essential for me because I was like, I need a full-on purple palette. I absolutely love these shades. They're so beautiful. Again, this is like an occasion palette. It's not like an everyday palette by any means, obviously, unless you want to wear purple every day, which, I mean, I wouldn't blame you if you did because it's such a beautiful color, but it is such a beautiful palette and I love it. I had to get an all purple palette because I was looking for one for a while. Okay, let's talk about my last smaller palette before anything else. This is the Bubs Beauty BH Cosmetics palette. I did a tutorial using this as well. Speaking of purples and bronzes, this is a great palette with the color scheme because you get like half neutrals and bronzes and then a couple of deep plum shades, which is like a brown-eyed girl's dream. This is like a brown-eyed palette for sure. Now, the pigmentation on this isn't the best. BH Cosmetics is kind of hit or miss when it comes to this. Some of their shadows, like as I mentioned to you, are some of my absolute favorite in my collection, some of the most pigmented, but palettes like these are not the best. I made it work. You can watch the tutorial. I did a tutorial for brown eyes. I'll link that down below. You can see it in action. I still did get a really nice look, but it's not something that's the absolute best. Okay, and then moving on to a couple of my other palettes. Now, I also want to mention, I'm not going to be mentioning like single shadows or anything like that. This is strictly my palettes. The Violet Voss Pro palette in the hashtag variety is one of my favorites. This is an amazing palette with amazing pigmentation. Just, oh my god. I know some people don't like Violet Voss, or they don't really think about Violet Voss, but I love this because you have your whole roll of purples. I actually have done a purple smoky eye tutorial using all of these purples, like literally every single one of these purples. This black is insane, and then you get some beautiful rows of just other satins and other fun things like that. Like, oh my god, they're just such beautiful, beautiful creamy pigmented shades. Even their mattes are stunning, but look at these foils. Look at these shimmers. Oh my god. Look at that. Just absolutely stunning, really richly pigmented shades. Violet Voss has some of the most pigmented shadows in my opinion. I know some people think they're hit and miss, but you can get a full look out of this. You can get neutral looks, gold looks, warm looks, purple looks, so I really love this guy. The Morphe, which one is this? 35M Boss Mood palette is one that's a little bit newer to me, and it's the one that I was using for like all of November, like all of my birthday month occasions. This gave me what I needed because you have all of these shades that are like purples and neutrals, and then you have these really beautiful greens, and I don't really have all of the greens in my collection, let alone greens in general, so I knew I had to get this. And then I love using these browns as well. Their mattes are really, really beautiful. And I know Morphe is contentious, it's a hit or miss brand, but this palette, from what I've experienced so far, is good. My last Morphe palette in my collection is, of course, the Jaclyn Hill palette. I bought this a couple of months after it came out, basically when it first launched at Ulta, and this is such a good palette. I still use it from time to time. It really is a palette that is so pigmented and so creamy. I know she had mentioned that she created her own formula with Morphe, and these really do perform so nicely, and I'm not even exaggerating. These have some of the best mattes, the most creamy. Like, it is insane. I absolutely love this palette, and I'm not just saying that. I think this really is great. Like I said, Morphe is hit or miss, and I can't speak to any of the other Jaclyn projects since she's launched this, but this is good. You have everything you need for neutrals, pops of colors. It really is a great palette. Job well done. Okay, and then I have my last like palette, and I'm sorry to end this on a not so good note, but this is the BH Cosmetics Blushed Neutrals 26 color eyeshadow palette. I am not super impressed with the eyeshadows in this palette, I have to be honest. I rarely reach for them. I definitely like the blushes more because you get a nice variety, but again, this is not something that I truly oh my god, this is not something I really reach for all that often. It's good, it's not great, and I think I got it because it was on sale or something and it was super duper cheap. But yeah, I wouldn't really necessarily recommend this, and I'm so sorry BH Cosmetics because I just spoke about the other things that I absolutely cannot live without in your range, but this is not one of them. Like I can definitely live without this, and I basically do. My last like palette, if you will, but I guess it's a collection of Super Shocks, is the Polite AF collection from ColourPop. It is made up of 6 eyeshadows, and the ones I use the most are Birthday Girl and Birthday Cake, specifically this shade right here. Woo! In Birthday Girl. This is like my favorite topper ever. It is so beautiful. It's like a champagne gold. It just gives you such a nice topper to your lid, to your look, anything you're doing. It's so neutral, so beautiful. I love it so much. And yeah, the other shadows in here are really nice as well, but this is definitely the standout shadow to me. Okay, and I am going to now put everything back. And yeah, I'll fast forward this part, but you can see kind of how I organize everything after I've taken them all out. Alright everyone, that is it for my eyeshadow palettes. As you can see, the sun is setting, the lighting has changed, it's gotten darker, which means it's time for me to go. I need some tea because that was like too much talking, but I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope it was super informative and helpful. Let me know down below what eyeshadow palettes stand out to you the most. Any in my collection, what are your favorite eyeshadow palettes? Let me know, give me your reviews so I can maybe go check them out if I haven't already. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and hopefully I will see you in my next one. Bye!